Chuck's not doing it. Okay, good.
I call this meeting of the Magnolia Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. So if everybody would please stand, Mr. Duncan is going to lead us in our invocation and pledges.
As our tradition, we say a prayer before each meeting. Please bow your head if you'd like to pray with us. Dear Lord, we thank you for letting us be gathered here tonight. We ask you to give us patience, wisdom, and kindness. And we thank you for the tremendous blessings you've given us for living in this country, for living in this state, and living in this community. We ask you to give out special blessings for all of our young people as they start school. Give out special blessings to all of our teachers as they come and teach our fabulous kids. And we ask you special blessings for all of our citizens as they understand, help them to understand that the greatest asset we have is our children. We ask for all these things in your Son's name. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. We're now going to say the pledges. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, audience participation. Ms. Hinkleman, we have a stack here. Are there any more?
I'm sorry, sir?
Sorry, is there any more than what this?
No, sir, that's it.
Okay. All right. We've got several that are wanting to speak tonight, and I'm going to read some game rules about that before we get started with this. Participants must have turned in the request form and must have followed administrative channels before addressing the board. Participation is limited to 5 minutes. Any complaint or charge brought against an employee by name opposition must be addressed through the proper administrative channels and will not be addressed directly through this agenda item. Please note that the Board of Trustees shall not deliberate, respond, or make decisions regarding any subject that is not included on the agenda that is posted. So with that, the first one that's going to speak tonight is Terry Albert.
My name is Terry Albert. I live in the district. I have 2 children in ISD schools. I've had the pleasure of serving on a few committees in ISD. I understand that the board, administration, and staff do to keep the school safe and maintained. I understand the decisions the board make are very difficult with the budget constraints they're given each year. I support meeting school programs from sports teams, debate to chess clubs with donations from my local business. I hear from teachers how hard it is to keep these programs running and the time and effort they give to make sure our kids have programs that are challenging them. I have served on many volunteer boards in the community, so I understand how hard decisions are made and realize they are not always the most popular. You cannot make everyone happy. I want to thank you for putting the TRE out for a vote this month. I believe in attracting and retaining the best teachers and providing the best security for our kids. When I send my kids to school, I want them to be safe and have the best teachers and administrators. I want them to come home excited about what they have learned, but most importantly, I want them to come home alive. That's not always the case in the world we live in. Do not be discouraged that it did not pass. There was a lot of misinformation against it. Many people who took the time to educate themselves understood it was not a tax hike, and the tax ratification would have helped in many crucial areas in your budget. I would encourage you to continue your efforts to find additional money for security, teachers, to maintain the high standards we expected when we moved to this area. I hope you continue to do what's needed in the best interest of our kids, teachers, and their security. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you. The next one is Chris Becker.
Sorry about my tire, I'm heading to football after this. So my name is Chris Becker, I have 2 kiddos in the district. My daughter's at junior high, my son's at the intermediate. I want to echo what Terry said, but I want to bring more emphasis to the security aspect. I feel security for our teachers and our students is everyone's responsibility in this room. I think we felt as a community this time around, if people think something bad is not going to happen in this small town of ours, I have a different philosophy. I think it's if not when, and so we need to do whatever we can. And seeing this back here really makes me very, very happy. But we need layered security. So if one breaks down, we have other measures in place, and we really can't put a price on our kids' security. So for those of you that supported this, I say thank you. For those of you that didn't, I hope you really reprioritize and you look at really what's at stake here. So thank you and God bless.
Thank you, Chris. Calvin Russell, you're next.
Well, I was one that voted against it, and I would agree with Terry that there was some misinformation, but I don't think it was from our side of things. We've been in the school district now since 1993, so we've been here 25 years, and both our girls attended Magnolia Independent School District. Wonderful experience. You know, they were in there. Our kids have been out of the school district now for, I don't know, 20-something years, and you know, we kind of get slammed for that because said, well, why you even don't even open your mouth because you don't have a kid in the school district. Baloney. My money goes and I take up none of the resources. I mean, I should have a voice equal to anybody else's. In your resolution that you came up with, you says, whereas the district is in a financial position to lower the interest and sinking fund rate to result in the same overall tax rate of 1.397 despite the increase in maintenance operations tax rate. Well, I appreciate you guys working on the finances and getting that position. You have now clearly informed us and admitted that you have 10 cents of our tax dollars that's not being used, that you don't need it anymore. We need it. So I'm here to recommend and request that you guys immediately put forth a tax decrease to the citizens in the Magnolia ISD. Thank you.
Okay, the next one is Cindy Hebron.
I'm just going to speak from here. My name is Cindy Havron. I was the debate coach at Magnolia High School for 10 years. In my capacity as the debate coach, I had the opportunity to serve on the executive council of the State Debate Association, as well as the district council for the national organization. As a result of that, I had the opportunity to meet and talk with and visit schools all over this country. And I'm going to tell you that none of those schools compares in the environment and the climate that we provide here in Magnolia ISD. And that, I believe, is because the people sitting in front of you, the administrators, and the teachers are here because they care about kids. That being said, the things that have been said about those people is abhorrent. And I think it needs to come to a stop. And I apologize to our entire school board and administration for the things that they've had to endure. Because we as a community have not stood strong enough behind them. So I want to stand here publicly today and give you my vote of confidence and my support in whatever needs to be done for this district. Because I think that we as a community need to start defending against those with the outlandish claims, most recent of which
was the kids that were out joyriding in district vehicles this weekend. Well, as all of you know, our kids are out doing things on the weekends. Gee, what a novel idea. And the fact that the district provides transportation and that the sponsors are responsible enough to use one of the Suburbans rather than an entire school bus, gee, that's amazing, isn't it? So as a community, I encourage you to get more active and more supportive, and let's get rid of this negative voice that's trying to destroy what we've built here.
Thank you. Stacy Enzick is next.
Hi, my name is Stacy Anzick, and I've lived in Magnolia for about 5 years, and so that means that my now 5th grader has done her whole official academic career here in Magnolia. And with all the back to school pictures and first day pictures, I want to share with you about her 2nd day of kindergarten. First day, woke up, breakfast, pictures, whatever, stuffed animal underarm, went to school, everything was fine. 2nd morning, I don't think I'm going today. Well, that's not good, because we have many more days to go. And so I said, well, why don't you want to go? So I don't like their rules. So one of the rules was about touching a wall or something. And I'm like, I'm trying as a parent to get the kid out the door to school on time and get me to work on time. And so we had met Charlene Golden prior to school starting, because my child doesn't always do well with adjustments, and I know that. So the first day of summer, when I saw activity at the school start to happen, I went and introduced her. Charlene Golden says, would you like to go to the playground and play with me? Well, of course. So she goes, and so Charlene's her big fan at this point. So I'm like, okay, maybe I can say, would you like to go talk to Miss Golden about why you don't want to go to school today? Yes. Great. I get her in the car. She thinks we're going to go see Miss Golden. She says, why are you bringing that lunch? I said, well, it's the 2nd day of school. I'm sure Miss Golden is very busy. We may have to wait for a while to see Miss Golden, so you might get hungry. Well, she accepts that. In the back of my mind, I'm still wondering, this is going to work for day 2. I don't know what's going to happen for day 3. So we get her down the hallway. People are saying, good morning, welcome, good to see you. And I'm like, oh, she's not sure if she's staying. And people are looking at us like we're insane. But they're smiling and still being welcoming. We get to Miss Thatcher's room. Janie Thatcher standing there at the door. Hello, Ramsey, here's where you put your lunch. Nope. I said, oh, we're not sure if we're staying today. Knowing as soon as I could turn and run. But Miss Thatcher looks at her, and instead of being me, trying to cajole her, Miss Thatcher says, you know what? I didn't want to come to school today either. To which my kindergartner's eyes got big. She said, I wanted to stay home in my pajamas and play with my cats. Well, now my kindergartner thinks this is better than the pink Play-Doh that was on her desk the first day. A teacher who likes to play with cats. She said, but then I remember it's my job to come to school. And it's your job to come to school. And did you know that we have toolkits? Well, now Ramsey is like, toolkits? She said, yeah, we're going to learn all about our toolkits today. Well, all of a sudden, she's prying away from me, and she's going further and further into the classroom. I'm hiking it down the hallway as fast as I can to get in the car before she starts crying, or before I start crying. And so then I'm still thinking all day long, I know she's safe, I know she's happy, I know she has lunch, I know she's with a fabulous teacher. But when I pick her up, I'm still wondering how I'm going to get her to school on the 3rd day. She gets in the car, and I say, how was school? It's amazing, it's awesome, I love school. And I said, well, so you're gonna go back tomorrow? Why wouldn't I? She doesn't remember that story. She only knows that story from my telling of it. But I'm here to appreciate all the teachers that she's had at MES. Now she's in her 1st year of 5th grade at the new school. Appreciate Charlene Golden for being her hero still. Appreciate Janie Thatcher for still considering her hers. And I appreciate y'all for the wisdom that y'all had to build the new school, so that 5th and 6th graders can start to spread their wings and have many different classes, so that now she has kind of 8 Janie Thatchers instead of just 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Glenn Addison, you're next.
My allergies
He's racked it up, so I'm gonna use this microphone.
Please do.
I approach you this evening because I'm kind of concerned about what I view to be a lack of information from the district as evidenced by the recent election. I personally discussed the issues related to the TRE election with the district CFO, Dr. Eric Morrison, felt comfortable in the district's approach. However, as a former board member, that was easier for someone like me who's more familiar with school finance and the complex formulas and numbers that entails. And that's why I have a better understanding for the 10 cents and how it can be gradually moved and some of it going to the INS fund the first year and how the tax base grows and all that. It's quite complicated, but that's why I took the time to find out what's this all about. Several years ago when I was on the board, we had a district newsletter. And I would respectfully encourage the board to consider that again because taxpayers are like shareholders. Periodically, I believe everyone in the district should get something in their mailbox from the school district because many folks don't do social media or they don't do internet research. However, most folks do get scare tactic emails from those that they believe have some credibility, whether it's true or not. And I think it's important to keep folks informed with facts. When they're not properly informed, they will not, as Paul Harvey used to say, get the rest of the story. Those who are not fond of public education or who have personal agendas against either the school district in general, the school board or administration or whatever, are going to make sure that the public gets information and it most likely will not be in the proper context, is my concern. I had 3 things placed on my mailbox about the district's $313 million debt. And because I served 15 years on the school board, I quickly saw that it was taken out of context. In my opinion, it needs to be explained properly and actually, and hear this out, actually boasted about. And let me tell you what I mean by that. It works out that we have about $24,000 of debt per student. Well, $313 million of debt. Let's compare that to Tomball, $834 million of debt and about $52,000 per student, or Montgomery at $608 million of debt and about $70,000 per student. So the $24,000 in the context, $313 million in the context is actually something that, as a former board member who had to vote on some of that debt, I think is worth boasting about. Magnolia ISD does not have a history of building extravagant buildings or stadiums and being wasteful with its money. The district, I believe, is managed in a very fiscally conservative way. I think the numbers back that up. And I mentioned the word stadiums a moment ago, so let's just look at that as an example. Magnolia ISD spent $600,000 per high school to expand a 2,000-seat stadium to an 8,000-foot stadium. We did that at Magnolia High School. That was $100 a seat. That's $100 times 6,000 is 600,000. We did that again at Magnolia West. And both high schools have 8,000 capacity stadiums. And we were frugal because we utilized the vast parking that already existed on those campuses. So Magnolia ISD spent $1,200,000 and has 2 stadiums that seat 8,000. Tomball, it's a free country. I believe in local control. Tomball's spending $50 million on a stadium. Several years ago, Waller spent $18 million on a stadium. Before that, Montgomery spent about $6 million. That's their business. I am not condemning districts that choose to do things that I might not agree with, but I'll tell you this. I can tell you that I would never vote for such an approach. And I don't believe my fellow board members would have at the time either. And I don't believe that y'all would either. And I thank you for not attempting that. However, I believe that the Magnolia ISD approach, as I've just demonstrated with some numbers, is in a major way, it just goes to show that contrary to fiscal critics of the district, there's no basis for accusing this district of fiscal mismanagement. The bottom line is that shareholders of Magnolia ISD need to be told the fiscal facts in the proper context, which is why I encourage the board to use some type of newsletter to get that information out. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we've only got one more. It's Deborah Phillips.
I'm gonna try and keep it together. Okay, we are parents who have twin 6-year-olds. They just turned 6. We also have a 4-year-old, and we moved here 5 years ago. And we were intending to raise our children in this district. We have made a decision to put our child in PPCD when she was diagnosed with cerebral palsy. And that was a very tough decision because at the time, we were really wanting to keep her in the general ed population all the way, up until she entered kindergarten. Our goal was to continue to surround her, with other folks in her peer group. And so anyway, we were approached through the ECI program to enter this district in PPCD. And we kind of reluctantly, we even met with the school. We decided to go meet with them at the end of May that year, and we decided to go ahead and put her in. She turned, 3 on June 9th, and she literally started like June 10th into the school district in summer school. Anyway, we had a great first year. Everything was wonderful, and we really had no intention of it changing or going any other direction. What happened was, into the 4-year-old year, things started going south pretty quick. We have nursing that is on board with our child who works up to 70 hours a week, and she's fed through a tube 24 hours a day. And so this, is a very big deal to us as parents because it's hard to explain when you've got a child that has a special need like that. She's not cognitively compromised, but she is physically compromised, okay? So we have to have, our child, that kind of level of care right now. And it's not me and my husband, who's in the audience, saying that. It's specialists within Texas Children's, she was born at Texas Children's at 1 pound 2 ounces in June of 2012. And she has been, coming along and thriving ever since with the help of all of those therapists, doctors, and specialists, and also the therapists that work with her diligently over there for occupational, feeding, and speech therapy. Okay, so as we got into that first year, we had, the second year we had, some issues there that we were trying to figure out and how to overcome. Last year, at the end of that year, we went to an ARD. We actually sat down and they declared her ID, which is mentally retarded. And that was, very devastating to Aaron and I at the time, just thinking about, that for your child, because we know our child, she's at home with us the rest of the day. She's only at school for 3 or 4 hours a day. And we knew that she was exhibiting a lot more, when she was at home. But she apparently wasn't testing out when she was on campus, okay? So anyway, we decided that we would have to pull her out, and we knew they were June birthday. They were supposed to be born in August. They were extremely premature in the NICU for 89 and 110 days, that we were going to definitely delay their entering kindergarten until this year. Okay, that was just a no-brainer. We never, ever intended to start them on their 5th birthday year. We actually asked the ARD committee that when we went to that first meeting, the very first meeting, we asked that question because we were concerned about how it would work. Like if we were going to do a delayed year, what would that mean? And they said, we're gonna cross that bridge when we get there. Don't worry about it right now. It's not something that we have to be concerned about right away. The problem was it became an issue, okay? And then we had, a lot of, I hate to call it the word bullying tactics, but that's really what it's felt like against our family, used against us over the last 4 months. We've made numbers of requests to the superintendent's office to have a meeting just to hear the situation so that he could weigh in and really understand what we're dealing with. And and try to guide us as a family. We've been advised to move because apparently these are normal tactics that are used in this community that we had no idea about. We're both highly educated people, and we thought this would be a wonderful community to raise our young children in. We still have a situation where we've requested.
Ms. Phillips, your time is up.
Oh, okay. All right. So sorry. It's okay. You're okay.
Audience participation's up. I don't think there's any more, is there?
No, sir.
No more, okay. Thanks for those who did participate tonight. We're gonna move on now to our superintendent's report. And I think Dr. Todd, you're up next.
Well, to start with, we have a group of distinguished visitors here with us in the back, and they had an opportunity to eat with and visit with the board some this afternoon, but our district has made a commitment to provide security at all of our campuses, to make sure we have a constable at every campus across the district, and to be able to do that, we had to add 10 additional constables on this year. So we've got a lot of new faces here, and one or two old faces that are back there with us before. But for those of you around our campuses, you're seeing some of those people there for the first time. They're a regular fixture at those campuses. They're in our car rider lines. They're in our buildings and our foyers. They're walking our halls, and we're getting to know our parents and our teachers, and we're just so proud to have this group. I think they've hired an outstanding group of new people for this district. And again, we're all getting to sort of know each other, but we wanted them to be here. We wanted to introduce them to our entire administrative staff. Many of our administrators obviously know the people that are working at their campus, but maybe hadn't had a chance to meet all the rest of them. So if we could, we'd like to have each one of you introduce yourself and tell us the campus that you're currently working at, and maybe how many years of experience you've had in law enforcement, because we've got some talented people up here. So let's just start down here in this end and hear a little bit about the group we have.
I'm Deputy Smith. I'm at the best school in the school district.
Easy now, easy.
I see my principal in the audience, and so it is. I think it's the best school in the district, and I've been in law enforcement for 40 years.
Deputy Brown, I'm currently assigned to Alpha Academy. I've had 13 years of law enforcement experience.
I'm Deputy Perkins. I've actually had 30 years in law enforcement.
At Williams?
I'm at Smith.
Smith.
Smith. That is the best.
Deputy Johnson, I'm at Bear Branch right now. I was at Mag High last year. Only about 5 years of law enforcement, but before that, I was on the other side of our kids at with Harris County Juvenile, the Harris County Juvenile System. So this is one thing I gotta add about as far as us being there. I think what happened at Santa Fe is, deplorable. It's awful. And one thing, my wife's a teacher. When they added the metal detectors, I think that's what we're here for. We're here to stave off of that. I'm a realist. I think it may be going to that, but as long as we can keep our kids from going through metal detectors, I think that's what we're fighting for, and the work we're doing is, I think it's material.
I'm Deputy Chaston. I'm at Bear Branch Elementary, and I've got quite a few years left, less than most of these guys.
I'm Deputy Jones. I'm at Magnolia West. I was privileged at Montgomery County Sheriff's Office for 2.5 years.
Deputy Reverend, got about 27 years law enforcement. I'm at Lyons Elementary, the best.
Deputy Seibert, I have 32 years experience with Harris County. I'm at Williams Elementary School, and we're the best. I'm Larry Medeiros. I'm at Nickel Sawmill Elementary, and I have 27 years in law enforcement. Deputy Justice, Ranch Intermediate, 4 years experience.
Deputy Hanks, Magnolia High School
the school district. So, there you go.
Deputy Carly at Magnolia High School, now about 8 years of experience.
And he knows who the superintendent is. There's a story there, so.
I'm Greg Palmer. I'm in Ellisor, and I've got about 27 years law enforcement. Nice to be here.
I'm Deputy Kelly, I'm at Magnolia Junior High, so 3 years.
My name is Chris Jones. I'm the Chief Deputy for Constable David Hill's office. We were approached by the board basically in May to talk about security and what we've been doing for the last 20 years here with Magnolia ISD. So we got together, and then after the Santa Fe shooting, it was pretty apparent that we needed to do more than what we were doing. And the board stepped up and said, you know, we're going to put somebody in every school. So we have 15 of them right here that are in your school district. We also have Mark Stepanski, who's at Magnolia Elementary, and he wanted me to pass it on that was the best school in the world. We have Sergeant Kim Gordon, who was here earlier, had to leave. He's at, I believe, Magnolia Intermediate School, and then travels around on the west side of the district to help with everything else. And then we have Lieutenant Lori Bagwell, who's out right now helping her husband recover from some medical problems. So I just want to thank the board, thank the community. This is the first district in the state of Texas to have somebody, an armed officer in every school. And that's something that we need to commend the board on for standing up and saying that the security of our schools is number one. And it's not just the students, it's the faculty that's there every day. It's whoever visits the schools every day, doesn't matter who it is. If they come to that school, they need to have a safe environment. We provide that for them. And I want to thank y'all for allowing us to do that.
Just sort of brag on our relationship with our constable department here goes back, it actually predates probably the time that my calling out here in this district, so more than 18-something years.
Yeah, it's right at 20 years, I believe.
But during that time, we have had a great relationship that I think has built to an outstanding relationship. And I would put our procedure, our working relationship that we have with our law enforcement out there among any across the state in the districts, and whether it's an internal or external force, we've got a group that's willing to be where we need them and to serve the needs of this community. And we thank you so much for stepping up and bringing us some great people and for the relationship that we have together.
And I'll tell you, the community really brought them in. A lot of these guys live in our community. I have kids that go to the school. A lot of our officers that are either on patrol or in the school districts, we have kids that go to this school. So when we had 10 openings in law enforcement, it's usually very hard to fill. We never even had to post it. We had people calling us going, hey, I hear their stuff. We had several guys retire from Harris County and wanted to come back out and work in their own communities. So that is saying a lot about this community as a whole, that we don't have to post a job to try to get somebody to come work in a school district. We didn't have to post it. 2 months later, we had 10 extra starting the schools. So it was great.
Well, I won't presume to speak for the board and say anything they want to, but I just want to say from the bottom of our heart as Magnolia ISD and the community, thank you guys for what you do. And we want to continue to bring you into the Magnolia ISD family, those of you that are new and a part of it, and to get to know you and get to love on you. And we just charge you to help take care of our schools and our teachers and our kiddos. And we just are so glad you're here. I don't know, any other comments y'all want to make? I'll turn it over to you, but I've said enough.
Will the board allow questions from the audience to the officers?
No.
I don't believe so. The audience participation's done. Thank you, though. Anybody got any comments? You guys want, I do, but I'll wait for you guys.
Go ahead.
I'd just like to thank you all for what you do. I cannot tell you enough, and some of you may have heard this story before, but I know a young lady who was in one of our parking lots, and a constable came and approached her and just made sure she was okay. And you know, it's that kind of reassurance that our students and our parents are looking forward to. And I cannot thank you enough for being willing to put yourself in harm's way to protect our kids. It's a fabulous job that you do, and we appreciate you for doing it, and we can't thank you enough.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. We really appreciate what you do. You know, we live in a different age now, and it's incredible. And you know, it's something to lose sleep over. It's that important. And we just thank you. It's the highest party we have. I mean, if we can't get that right, there's not much chance to get anything else right. So thank you again for everything you do.
They've all got to get up early in the morning, so there's going to be a mass exodus out of here too. I can guarantee you that. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Chris.
And it's our pleasure, by the way. Okay.
Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank y'all for supporting us. Y'all are a lot of help to us as well.
All right, I'm still up, right? Superintendent's report, Andrew.
Well, I guess so.
So right now, I'd like to bring up Tim Owen and Joe Devies, our Transportation Department. I just want them to give the board just a brief update on the comings and goings of the buses from schools in the morning in Magnolia ISD. Just it's a kind of evolving story this year. It's started off a little tough, as it does every first day, and they have gotten better along the way. Just kind of give you an update. Guys, got a few seconds here.
Okay, I'll take just a few seconds, but I have to say this. Mr. Owen and that Transportation Department, they're rock stars. They are rock stars. All the curveballs that are thrown at them, the issues that they have to deal with on a daily basis, and yet every child gets to school and gets home every single day. You know, today we were releasing buses to go pick up kids from school when the railroad arms are stuck down in a tanker truck and a chemical spill, and we're stuck. And we have to make these times, and so there's all these challenges that they're faced with, and we actually have Stan in the audience with us tonight, one of our bus drivers who showed up, so thank you for being here. It's a tough job. You know, everybody in this room has a tough job. You know, that's for sure, but being a bus driver is a tough job, and not just anybody can do it. And I know this because on the other side, on the nightstand over here at 3:20 every morning, I hear an alarm go off to wake up. And so people are getting up at 3:20, 3:30 in the morning to come to work, to face all these challenges, and they do it. They have a passion for it. They have a calling for it. And like I said, it doesn't matter what's thrown at them. They make it happen on a daily basis. And so, you know, I want to personally thank Tim, because it starts with the leadership there, and all the drivers and all the Transportation Department. Our three rocks that have been thrown at us are times. This year, traffic has been exceptionally a huge problem. It's been a huge problem, more so this year than ever that I can remember. And then, of course, the driver shortage that we're dealing with. You throw those three things, of course, we're working on everything as we do. And as we see every single day, I think the first day of school, we cleared all buses at 7:10, 7:15 p.m., which is very late. And today we cleared at 5 p.m. So we are making strides, we're making progress, we're working, and I want to thank the principals also, because I know that you're using, and my mind just went blank, 101, what's, somebody help me out here? Remind 101. They're helping us. Thank you very much for reminding me, and using Remind when buses arrive, when buses are leaving, so that parents are communicated with, and they have an idea of what to expect. Because when they know what to expect, then they're a little more understanding with the challenges we face. Of course, traffic. We don't have a lot of control, but I know Mr. Owen's been on the phone with TxDOT to try and synchronize some lights. Dr. Stevens and I have been at several campuses throughout the week. Bear Branch Intermediate School, we've worked together. Tommy, thank you for you and your crew. And we're working on some traffic patterns. There are certain things we don't have control of when it comes to traffic, but there are certain things we do have control of. And we've been able to change the traffic pattern at Bear Branch Intermediate School, and today it shaved time. Just to give you an example, Ms. Revicek had driven a bus, Route 40, I believe it was, and last Wednesday from the Valero right there on 2978 in Egypt to Bear Branch Intermediate, it took her about 27 minutes because of the traffic. Today, she made it in 11. So the things that we're doing to the new traffic flow, things are working. It's going to take some time. We've talked with Mike Metz about some traffic flow issue plans. And then, of course, and that's just some of the other schools. So we are working. We do want parents, we do want people, principals, everybody to know we are working and our times are getting better. We've also talked with principals about release times to give us a few extra minutes in the morning to get those kiddos to the other campuses that fall behind them in time for instruction when that school bell rings. And then, of course, the last one is a driver shortage, is a letter that went out today. We're 18 drivers down. That's just about 20% of our staff. And so, if you put that into perspective of if you didn't have 20% of your teachers or 20% of your workforce in your business, it's tough to do. And we have office staff, we have mechanics. Tim and I drive as well, school buses. Some of you have seen us pull up at your stop and go, what are you doing? We're getting kids home. We're making it happen. And that's a philosophy that we have in transportation, dedicated to be the best, and we put a little tag after that, whatever it takes. And so we are fighting those challenges of the driver shortage. We have some plans in place for that we're going to announce here in the next couple of days. We appreciate your patience and your understanding, and of course any suggestions that you have. Tommy will agree. I've met with a parent this morning actually, and we implemented one of her suggestions, and it was amazing. It was part of the reason we were able to go from 27 minutes to 11. So, but the staff at transportation, their leadership, rock stars. They do a great job on a daily basis. Thank you.
Thank you. There's two things that come to mind. Every now and then, my wife, when she's a chaperone on one of these buses, she comes home and reminds me of the talent and the attitude with which these guys do their job. It's fantastic. It's second to none. She reminds me of that every time. The second thing that comes to mind is that I know some parents came to you guys with an idea for making some routes a little bit better. And you guys sit down and worked with the parents. It was a phenomenal cooperation. Sat down and worked with the parents and came up with a solution that was better not only for them, but for you guys and for everybody. It sped things up. It saved money. It got kids on time to be picked up. It was great. So
Absolutely.
thank you for that.
Absolutely. You're welcome. Thank you. Yes.
Well, just from a personal story, I went to New Braunfels with my daughter with the volleyball team last week, and their air conditioner went out. Do y'all remember that story at all? Anyway, they drive the bus on Wednesday, the air conditioner goes out, they call, they had a 9 o'clock game in the morning, and you guys drove that morning and had a new bus for them. You drove all the way there, all the way back, had them a new bus at 8:30 in the morning, and I just thought that was so impressive. You didn't say, you know what, drive that bus with no air conditioning. Y'all were right there 12 hours later with a new bus, and I just thank you guys for that. It's impressive.
Joe, if you could, just remind everybody, how many miles do y'all drive a year?
About 1.5 million.
And the driver shortage is statewide and has been the last couple of years, correct?
It's the last several years, yes, ma'am. It's something that we as a nation deal with every single year, especially now that the economy's, when the economy's great, it's tough to hire drivers. When the economy's in the tank, we can we have people looking for jobs and we can hire them. But it's something that with a lot of the federal regulations that we have to deal with, or drivers have to deal with, they're not making it easy for us to hire. Just as an example, if somebody were to apply today, from putting in the application, if they don't have a CDL already, going through the process of taking their 6 written tests, their 2 driving tests, their pre-employment drug test, their DOT physical, all their training, the whole shebang. It's a good 2.5 months process, and it's that's a long time for people to go waiting for a paycheck. They have to pay the rent on the first, and so they need to start working now, and so it is very difficult.
I want to think it was 16 drivers we were down at the beginning of last year. Does that sound
25.
right to you? 25.
25 last year, so we're making
So
strides.
look,
Yes.
how much better
Good
we are
news
this
is-
year.
Yeah.
All right, keep doing what you're doing. You keep bringing good people here. It just takes a minute.
And I think the last update we did somewhere in the fall, I think we were able to report to the board at that time, we were 100%
Right.
staffed. We put some incentive deals on. So I know we'll get there, but everybody's fighting this issue. CDLs are so important to the economy and the oil business, something, it's just, we lose people left and right. But you've got some leads on somebody, and we just want to impress everybody that it is a shortage, and we didn't have any reductions. We had to cut back. We're gonna put those positions back on, and it will shorten up some of our route times. We just takes us a while to be able to hire those people and get them on the street and get them rolling.
Thank you all for your support.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
I think I'm still up.
Keep on going.
I think we now will bring up Mr. Tim Bruner and give us a little update on our facilities and construction, which are sort of
shouldn't take long.
telling down a little bit.
Well, yeah, we pretty much have finished everything up. And we're still working on some small details and some punch list stuff. And now the warranty requests are rolling in pretty steady. So we've got a lot of work to do over the next year, but these are all the projects these are the big projects that we worked on and completed this year. Finishing Bear Branch Intermediate, obviously we're still fine tuning some things there and definitely getting into the warranty period. Finished Williams Elementary, barely, as far as the library goes, but we knew that was going to be a tough turnaround. Finished some renovations at Mag Junior High, Bear Branch Junior High athletics, at Magnolia Elementary administration, as well as some other classroom renovations, and of course the district event center if you were at convocation. So I'm just going to go through real quickly and give you some shots of Williams that we took today. The library, we finished really Monday, and started moving books in on Tuesday, moved the furniture in on Friday. So you can imagine where we're at on that. It's being put together, but it is done, and it's really a good-looking space. And first chance you get, if you go over and check it out, I think you'll really appreciate that we took an existing classroom wing. It was our old 5th grade wing, and we created some other classroom spaces in the old library, which I'll show you. But we took that classroom wing and created a library out of it. It's really turned out well. This just over on the other side shows you that's the large, looking at the windows to the large group instruction area. And then in this area, these are small group instruction rooms. So we were able to get some nice space in there that we're kind of doing at all of our new libraries. This is a shot of the music room, which was created in the old library space. And just imagine 3 years ago, music was being held in a portable. So we got them out of the portables and into the building, and then basically reusing space. We put the library in the 5th grade wing because the old library was too small. It was very dungeon-like, and it just didn't have the more modern amenities that we have in the libraries today. We make good use of this space. This is the art room. This is on the other side of the old library, and then we also got 2 classrooms out of that same space. Moving forward to Bear Branch, this is just a shot of the security fencing that we put on. At one time we wanted to enclose this, make a corridor out of it, leading to our new PE locker room. Fire marshal wouldn't let us, but we were able to kind of secure the route anyway by putting up this wrought iron fencing. I think it turned out great. The shot of the new athletic locker room, the renovations that we did this summer, included new flooring, new lockers, obviously the benches, fresh coat of paint, and then I know shots of restrooms aren't very glamorous, but yeah, these are
glamorous now.
This looks so much better with all new plumbing fixtures, fresh coat of paint, new partitions. Looks brand new. Moving to Mag Junior High, here's a shot of the gym floor. Students were finally able to get on this floor at the end of last week. Took us all summer to get this floor completed, but it is done, and it obviously looks great. Again, not very glamorous, but renovations at the Mag Junior High restrooms we completed. All of the common area restrooms have now been renovated. New flooring, new walls, new fixtures, new partitions, everything's new, even new hand dryers. So it just looks significantly updated compared to what they were. And a shot of the stage, I just threw this in here as a little, this is Mr. Slater, it was kind of a thing that was bothering him, and we went in, and this doesn't really help until you see how the stage used to look. I dug that one up from a couple of years ago. So anyway, just some nice upgrades, but we're pretty much completed with most of our projects, so. If there's any questions?
I guess the good news too on Magnolia Junior High, one of the culprits of maybe some of the water issues we had on their floor, we think may have been helped to be resolved by some of the work city did, increasing some of the storm lines and sanitary lines that run down to the main. So we've got that taken care of. So we should be protected in that area against future storm sort of surges or backup in some of those things.
We've certainly done everything I think we can to alleviate that problem, and the city replacing the sanitary line with a larger line just recently, I think will definitely help. So.
And I think the boards were that gym floor was pretty much done with FEMA dollars. It's a very, it's a replacement because it flooded as part of the storm. So
We tried all kinds of ways to dry that out though before we been off on that, right?
We did. We spent a lot of effort really to get it dried out so that we could use it at the end of last year. We scrubbed the air. We did a lot of cleaning so that it was still a safe environment for students, but what all these cleaning companies could not guarantee is they could not guarantee is they could clean everything up underneath. So the decision was made to go ahead and replace it, which I think was a wise decision.
Well, all of the voters who approved that bond package asked us to build safe facilities with that money, so thanks for making sure that happened.
You're welcome.
I'll ask you, Tim, I guess we're gonna get probably a final wrap on this at some point, but of all the items you mentioned, and like Christie said, we're voter approved, including the event center. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that you're under budget for all of those. I don't know by how much, but I guess we're gonna get an update on how much that is at some point, right?
we'll put it on the list.
Yep.
I'm here every month.
Well, I'm certain we're under budget on all this, so.
We most definitely are under budget. The exact dollar figures, I don't know, we'd probably have to work something up to present to you, but I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 to 5%, which, when you're talking about, tens of millions of dollars, that adds up really fast.
That's lots of money.
Great job. We appreciate all the extra hours that you worked on that.
Well, and the ingenuity and the thought behind it. I mean, you're looking for lots of ways to save money, and that adds up, like you said. Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm still up. And I've got Dr. Anita Hebert that wants to give us a report on the new accountability ratings that were just released.
Well, as a matter of fact, I do. But before I begin this actual presentation about the accountability, I really would like to take a minute just to commend a group of people that make up a large portion of our audience tonight. And that's our principals and our curriculum directors, and then all the support directors that stand with them to help make sure our kids are here, they're safe, they're fed, they have every bit of the tools that they need to take care of business in school. Because when what we're going to see tonight looks like numbers, it's a letter grade, it's information like that, but to those people, they're not numbers. They're children's faces. They are hopes and dreams of families, and they are blood, sweat, and tears of teachers and extra time and all of the work that goes into that. And they don't get enough thanks for the work that they do, and it's not always reflected here in these numbers, but it meant a lot to me to say that to this group tonight, because that's what they bring every day. And a lot of that is reflected here, and I'm proud to say that, but I know that they have done a great job, and we're beginning again to do more to help make sure our kids have not only the achievement that they need, but they become the people that they need to be. So thank you to you guys for all of that. And so, let's look at our report. It is the timeline that the state has provided for us. The districts will receive a rating in August 2018, A, B, C, D, or F. And so that is, we are in August of 2018, and so it's time for that. Campuses this year do not receive an official letter grade. They get an official rating of met standard or improvement required, just as they have in the last few years. However, in December of this year, they will release a what-if report based on the data that you'll see tonight that will show what their rating would have been, a letter grade, if this data had been used. And so we'll use that for planning to look ahead to next year for when they will get an official letter grade in August of 2019. And so for the A through F, it's a familiar scale that they've created for us. It's just as we know from school, and it has those tags: exemplary, recognized, and acceptable for A, B, and C. D is in need of improvement, and then an F would of course be unacceptable performance. So let's look ahead. How did Magnolia ISD fare? And here is the report. It takes a lot, it is a giant set of data and indicators that go into pulling all this together. They have set it up to be in 3 domains. The first one is student achievement. That's the red bar you'll see there. Then there is domain 2, which is school progress, and which are the students making their progress as they should through the system and in relationship to their peers at other schools. And then domain 3 is closing the gaps, and that's the one that looks at all different subpopulations and looks at their performance in relation to relative targets that have been set not only by the state but by federal regulations. And so that one is probably the most complicated one of all to look at. But the state takes these numbers, and you'll see there are Magnolia ISD's scaled scored numbers all the way down, and then they take, you'll see from domain 1, the red, you'll see then under school progress, they look at these 2 blue, academic growth and relative performance, and they take which one is the best of those 3, and you'll see that 87 was the best of those when they're put together. These are just subgroups of the red domain. So 87 was the best of the 87, 83, and 80 that you'll see here, and that's the grade. And then they take the grade from the closing the gaps, they weight those 70% and 30% and give us the final grade of a B. And our grade is an 86 this year under the new state accountability system. So how does that look in relationship to the rest of the state? As you can see, there were 829 total districts who were rated this year. Due to Harvey last year, there were several, as you know, that missed so many days of school that they are not rated this year, and there are 92 of those. There are 13 districts who had other reasons for not being rated, and then there are 266 single campus districts, and they are treated like a campus, and they're not receiving their rating until next year. So out of the 829, 16% received an A, 43% received a B, 30% received a C, and 11% received a D or an F. So you'll see that we're in the B range, and along with many others, but of course we're already working, starting even tomorrow, working on plans to continue to move that forward and push toward that A, so just as we all like to be A students. Our official ratings for our campuses are Met Standard. This year, every campus meets the Met Standard rating, but we also have received an actual scaled score, overall score from the data that's been presented to us so far. So we have those number scores to present tonight for each campus received an overall score. One thing to note that is from an interesting perspective from the state, the high schools have those other indicators that you saw in that first chart. They get the graduation rate and our college and career readiness and some other indicators that factor in. But elementary and junior high are the ratings are strictly related to STAR scores. And that was one of the things that the state had discussed and really looked toward, was finding other ways to help us have a rating that weren't dependent on that one day, one test rating. But so far right now, these numbers are reflective of STAR performance in elementary and junior high. Finally, as part of the accountability system, the districts and campuses are able to receive distinction designations, and those are awarded to campuses based on how they perform in relation to 40 other like campuses that are identified in the state as similar to them in demographics and size and grade levels. And so they're compared in how they land. If they land in the top quarter for several of the indicators, they can earn a distinction by winning in that group. And so they're able to earn distinctions in these categories, the 4 core in academic growth and closing the gaps, and also post-secondary readiness. So you will see this year we have 5 schools who earned gold stars, as we call them, distinction designations. Bear Branch Elementary in academic growth. Nichols Sawmill received 2, post-secondary readiness and closing the gaps. Smith Elementary earned an impressive 6 out of 6 gold stars this year, and we're very proud of that performance in every area that they had that was available to them. They've earned that gold star. Williams Elementary earned 1 in science, and Magnolia West earned 4 out of the 7 that they had this year in those areas you see there: reading, math, science, and academic growth. So we are proud that this chart is much larger. Last year we had 6 in the district. This year we have 14. But the good news is we also have several of our campuses who moved up on the scale in comparison, so they're poised for the next level in this coming year. So we were really happy to see that. And finally, these are the resources that we use to put together some of this information. But the final bullet you see is a website that has been put together by the commissioner. It's called texasschools.org, that parents and community members can access information on that site to gain more information specifically about the items in the accountability system. So, thank you. That's my report. Any questions or?
Do you have a couple of things off the top of your head, specific items that you're working on, the team is working on to get us, that'll help us get us closer to that A and to put us in the A territory?
Specifically in the accountability system, you get a lot of points for the highest level of academic performance, for kids reaching the very highest level, not the lowest level bar, but the highest level. And one of the district initiatives that we're bringing in this year, we'll be working at our own leadership around instruction that continues to help kids meet the higher bars, pushes kids' levels of learning up. So we'll be working together starting tomorrow with our administrators on that. We also have a writing initiative in our district in which we're writing across all core contents to improve the level of our kids' writing, even in social studies class. You may hear a lot of that from your kids, but that's another big initiative that we have in our science classes. They'll be doing lab work, but it will include the writing that goes with that so that they become proficient in reading and writing, not just in English class, but in all classes, to continue to raise their level of performance. So those are 2 specific ones that we're working on.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Are you done with your section?
Obviously.
Thank you, Dr. Ebert. All right, so we're moving on to our consent agenda, and this portion of the agenda consists of items to be routine and acted upon by one motion, unless separate discussion is requested. So is there any questions from anybody about this section? We reviewed it, we're good. Okay, so we need a motion that the board approve consent agenda items A through F. Sonia motions, seconded by Joe. All in favor? Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. Okay, before Dr. Morris gets going here, we've got, it's now time for us to canvass the election returns from the August 14th, 2018 tax ratification election. The board has received and reviewed the official results from the Montgomery County Elections Division. The results are as follows. There were 3,297 total votes cast, for 1,603, against 1,694. And I would ask anybody up here if there's any questions before we carry on with the motion. Okay, we need a motion that the board approve canvassing the election returns and declaring results of the August 14, 2018 tax ratification election official. Motion by Joe, seconded by Christie. All in favor? Motion passes. All right. At this time, we're going to be going into a public hearing regarding the 2018-19 proposed budget. So Dr. Morris, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Blizzard. Sorry I got up here a little early, just couldn't hardly wait to get to the public hearing. Tonight, in public hearing format, we're going to go over the three primary funds of general fund, food service, and debt service for fiscal beginning September 1st, 2018. Again, this is something we're required by law to do each and every year, so we do promote public participation. I'll be glad to answer any questions as we move along, okay? So first off, I just want to touch on the general fund. The general fund is also known as our general operating fund, sometimes referred to as our M&O fund as well. Tonight, I'm not going to get too bogged down into the specifics. What I wanted to hit on the highlights were the changes since last year, okay? The things that we are taking on this year new in 18-19. And this certainly will not come as any surprise to the board. This is something we've talked about for months and months. Some of this in Budget A and some in Budget B and some in both. First off, we have the new facility operational cost associated with both of the intermediate campuses. Obviously, we have electricity cost, water cost, and things of that nature. Some staffing costs, but our folks have done a fantastic job in limiting the effects for staffing purposes. You got to meet the officers earlier tonight that we've added to the budget. We've added, again, a total of 10 security officers to the budget, costing the district just under $1 million that we've embedded in the 18-19 budget as well. City of Magnolia water rate hike. Some of you may not be aware of this at this point, but back in March, the city of Magnolia increased water rates for all entities, essentially, and we believe perhaps unfairly to an extent for the nonprofits and state and county governments and so forth and so on. We've been working with the city to try to find a remedy for the increase, but we've been unsuccessful at this point, but we are moving forward with some other options. It's certainly something that has our attention at this point. We have to budget, assuming that the rates will be intact. At this point, we anticipate an additional cost of over $500,000 for water just in district. And, to kind of put that into perspective, I know Mr. Deavies was up here earlier talking about transportation and how many miles that we drive and things of that nature. With this water rate hike, were we to be forced into paying the new rates for the entire fiscal year, we would be paying easily more for water for the few facilities within the district's within the city's boundaries than we do on fuel for the entire school district. So hopefully that puts some things into perspective. Yes, sir, Joe.
If you can tell everybody, what did we pay last year and what do you anticipate we would pay this year?
We paid, for the last completed fiscal year, we paid $181,000, and the rates have essentially quadrupled.
So what would we pay roughly?
We're looking at over $700,000 just for water for the facilities within the city's boundaries.
In 1 year, it went up that much?
Yes, sir. Quadruple for us.
And it's the highest rate.
Absolutely.
They're going
yes,
after
what they did was they
churches.
created 3 new categories. The old categories, they had residential and commercial. School districts, nonprofits were lumped into the commercial before, and they created a new institutional category that includes the school district, the churches, the state and county and federal buildings and the like. You know, we've talked to the churches. I've talked to all of the pastors in the area, Mr. Dave Welch, some of you may know. No one's happy, you know, about the rate increase, in particular, the fact that it appears that, well, it doesn't appear, it's a fact, the rates are higher for our category. And of course, our beef with that is that the production of water and the distribution of water should cost the same regardless of the entity. So at this point, we've been unsuccessful in finding a remedy, but we are preparing for the next options, if you will, to find a remedy.
And what was the justification for that by them that you're told?
Well, that they had not changed the rates in many, many years, and that in part for our category was that there was a statement made that we do not pay taxes. So, as an entity.
It would appear that we do.
Paying taxes?
Well, yes, and we disagree with pretty much all of it, but that is what we've been told. We've, you know, we've always had a good relationship with the city, but we've attended several city council meetings. We've had meetings with Mr. Mendes and others, and unfortunately, we've gotten no traction at this point. So we are preparing to submit a public complaint with the support of all of the churches in the area within the next several weeks. And that would be the next step.
And I know it's rhetorical, but we reminded them that all of our money comes from the taxpayers who have already paid for their water and are now paying again.
Absolutely, yes, sir. We have passed that along, double taxation of sorts, and the fact that all of our taxpayers are being taxed by them and by us, and that it's essentially an unfair practice. And we've received really no willingness at all at this point to remedy the situation.
Is this open to the audience, you were saying? Can we ask a question?
Absolutely. Oh,
yes,
well, it's a public hearing.
Yes, public hearing, okay. We know that this is unfair, okay, a quadrupling of the water tax rates on churches in the area and other entities. They created that brand new entity of
Yes, sir.
different businesses, and they include churches in it. How can we fight against them so that we can make it fair? Because obviously, they don't have any problem doing this to us.
Yes, sir. Well, I mean, I think that our next step in terms of submitting an official public complaint is the right step. You know, public attention means a lot. You know, I think, you know, raising and having a collective voice, you know, in opposition of what the city has done.
Is there gonna be public hearings on this that we can
Well,
complain at?
there will ultimately be. I mean, and they did, in fairness, they did go through the proper steps of having a public hearing back in February and things of that nature, and then the rates changed the next month in March. So we believe that after we submit the public complaint, with the support of all the churches in the area, and again, I'm waiting to hear back from the county and the post office and other departments, that will then start the process of a required public hearing, okay? So that
Do you
would
have
be
a
the next.
website that we can go ahead and log on to and keep up with what you're trying to do to help us?
We could certainly get the word out, yes, sir. I mean,
You
at
have
this
one right
point,
now that we can write
we
down?
do not at this point, but we can get that information out, for sure.
Great.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is this quadrupling of the rate, is it just a pass-through through Magnolia by SJRA and groundwater?
No, sir.
Or is it the city is?
It is a city. We've dissected every component of the rate structure, and we are paying exactly what the other entities are for SJRA and the Lone Star groundwater. It is simply an increase to the rate per 1,000 gallons, and they've established new fees for our category of entity.
So they have no more costs, they're just doubling quadrupling your.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
I'd like to add one more comment. I listened to the state Senator Paul Betancourt on the radio talk specifically about this rate hike increase in the water rates for churches in Magnolia. And he says that this is going to set a standard. If they get away with this here in Magnolia, they're going to be doing this throughout the entire state. It's going to be a brand new revenue stream for all the different cities all over the state of Texas if we don't fight this thing down.
Yes, sir. I agree 100%.
And it's a scam, he says.
We've heard similar. If it, look, go ahead and move forward if it's, you're good. You guys good? Okay. Thank you for your input and your questions. Next, in terms of taking care of the additional needs of the school district, after taking on these new known costs, if you will, then we, had to take a sit back and look at the amount of money available to be able to try to take care of our employees in terms of raises, to remain competitive with salaries and whatnot. And ultimately, we were able to give a 1.5% cost of living adjustment to all employees. And tonight, and there may be some questions about this as well, but we're proposing also a $25 a month increase in the district's employee health insurance contribution. And I'll go into some of that in a little bit more detail in just a moment. I've got some slides to show on both of those topics. If you'll just bear with me maybe. Okay, any other questions on this slide? Okay. So this view right here shows the revenue and expenses of our general fund. I think the most important thing to take from tonight in each of our primary funds is that we have a balanced budget in all of our funds. We are not promoting or adopting a deficit budget. We're not performing any quirky accounting approaches. We're not performing any short-term solutions such as changing the fiscal year and so forth and so on. So we have a $108 million budget on the revenue side and a $108 million expenditure, okay? The budget is balanced. For comparison purposes, I wanted to show a comparison of Magnolia ISD in terms of revenue that we receive by revenue category and our expenses by functional category. And I think that this would likely speak some volume to folks who may not know. Let's just look at the revenue side in the last two right-hand columns, okay? And I'm not going to get bogged down in exactly how the state funding system works, but it is antiquated and it is years and years and years behind its time, so to speak. But ultimately, the bottom line is that districts are funded at different levels. That's what matters, okay? And so as you look at this, please keep in mind on the right-hand column, that is the number from the state average for 17-18, okay? So that number is going to go up. So the disparity in what I am able to compare is around $500 per student, okay? So that's what we have to work with in Magnolia ISD. Whereas the average student in the state of Texas receives, the average district receives over $500 more than our student, than what we get paid for our students, okay? And I think that's important for a couple of reasons. I think it shines a light. Dr. Hebert just presented that we're scoring pretty well, in our academically. B+ was good when I was in school, so just kidding. But anyhow, I think it suggests that we're doing more with less. I mean, we receive on average $500 less than the average student in the state of Texas, average district in the state of Texas. Okay. And then further, as you go to, and also, I think, let me go back to the revenue just quickly. I think it also suggests that the TRE was and is and will be a good idea, because if anyone could look at this and somehow convince me that our kids are not as important as the average student in the state of Texas, then I'm here to listen. So I think that's important to note as well. But as you look down the expenditure list, just a couple of things, and again, I'm not going to try not to get bogged down, but a couple of things that we have taken pride in over the last many years. We spend a little more percentage-wise directly on instructional cost in the classroom, instructional support, and on average, we spend less on general administration in terms of percentage and campus administration and so forth and so on. You'll also notice under Function 52, obviously we're outpacing the state average. The state average will likely increase for security costs, of course, just like ours has, but we're spending $105 per student on security this coming year. Okay. Any questions on this slide? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You mentioned the TRE was, is, and will be a good idea. The state program revenue number would be higher had that passed, correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
So we would have gotten more money from the state?
We would have had more money, yes, sir. And it is the only local mechanism we have other than increasing enrollment by doing open enrollment to promote additional revenue.
So while holding local taxes flat, we would have gotten more state revenue to have a better budget this year?
That's correct. Tax rate would have stayed the same. Yes, sir.
So how much money is that $500 per kiddo worth to this school district?
That's worth $6.5 million.
$6.5 million.
$6.5 million if we receive the average that the school district in the state of Texas receives.
So that's how much we lose by not getting that money.
We lose a portion of that, yes, sir, by not accessing the additional M&O tax effort. The system itself, I mean, there's many different components that go back years. So
Just remind the board, because board members are sort of been new to.
Absolutely. Yeah, we
roll back to the compression date.
Yeah.
And the disparity we work under because of where our tax rate was.
We were frugal.
Just a quick explanation of that. Some of you heard it, but I mean, it's bears repeating.
So the simplest thing that affects us right off the bat in terms of all districts receive a basic allotment, and then there's several adjustments that are thrown to that in terms of cost of education index and things of that nature that are, 20 years old, some of them. The immediate thing that affects us is that our allotment per student is immediately reduced because we weren't capped out in the 05-06 school year at $1.50. At that point in time, our board decided that, we didn't feel like we needed to tax at $1.50 at the cap, so we were at $1.46, okay? So when the initial allotment per student is assigned to Magnolia ISD, it's immediately reduced to 98% of that, and then we move forward from there. So it's just an example. I mean, again, 13 years ago, and the antiquated formulas are still working against many districts in that form. So
And if you can go
hope that
back
answers
just
the question, Doc.
10 years or so, I mean, I see that locally, we're gonna pay $5,000 per student, and the state's gonna pay $3,000. If you went back roughly 10 years ago, what would those numbers be? I mean, how much would the state be paying, and how much would our local taxpayers be paying?
It was nearly reversed in terms of percentage.
So when people wanna know-
In particular, if you get closer to 15 and 20 years.
So when people wanna know, why are we paying more locally, it's because
It's because of the way the state funding system works. And because, when property values increase and local tax revenue increases, some folks may assume that means more dollars for us, but it does not, because we are capped at an amount per student that we can receive, which is why that this is out of whack, because our property values in Montgomery County have outpaced state average. So it's absolutely a result of the funding system.
So one last thing, it just bears repeating again. So what you're telling me is, even though our property tax rates go up, and everyone assumes the school, that we're getting all that money, the truth is we're not.
The tax
We're already
revenue, you
capped
said the
out,
rate, yes.
and the
that
state just
revenue-
gets to absorb that money.
Absolutely.
And it
Yes,
goes
sir.
to other districts or whatever they want to spend it on.
And one of the beefs that many folks have had towards the state is the question as to where are you spending that money? Because no one can define, or you certainly can't define that it's going back into the school district.
Right.
So when we're asking the state to make education a priority, we're asking them to simply use the dollars that they are recouping from our taxpayers.
Which is yet a separate issue than recapture once we start to earn too much money in property taxes in the local district, correct?
Yes, sir, it is.
Some of that goes back to them
another-
as well.
That's another issue, yes, sir.
And that's just on top of the fact that the more money that's generated by property values locally, the less money the state kicks in.
Yes, ma'am.
Just
They
so
decrease as it goes up.
the board's aware, we have shared with and we support our Magnolia Chamber, and that they're part of their legislative agenda that they're gonna present is that we need this state to look at the system of property tax reform, and as that goes forward, we need to look at how we're funding public education, because they go hand in hand. And so we're gonna be joining with the chamber to say that's something that really needs to be looked at in this next coming session as a part of it.
Voted on for last week.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that Glenn Addison pointed out that I think we need to do, is that's something where, say, that newsletter, I don't think our local constituency understands that as their property taxes go up, they believe we're getting that money. I think we need to make it crystal clear to them that the state just absorbs that money and essentially allocates it wherever they want. Doesn't even go into possibly even the school system. They just get to absorb it.
Absolutely.
And it's gonna be a double whammy the higher they get.
That's right, but they believe that we're taking their money here in MISD, and we don't even get to touch it.
Yes, sir, that's correct. I've got a very lengthy spreadsheet that I built that shows exactly how it works, but we won't get into it tonight.
Skip to that one.
Yes, yes, sir.
Are you gonna be working with the legislature on property tax reform? Because it sounds like it would be definitely benefit you
Absolutely.
guys.
What-
What is it that you want from the legislature? They're gonna be meeting.
We want to keep more of our money.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly work with Cecil Bell, and Colby Nichols is a lawyer that we use on occasion. He also represents a fast growth school coalition, so absolutely, we will. They bend our ear frequently, as a matter of fact.
Are they gonna be proposing school vouchers, and would that be something that would benefit everybody, including you?
Yeah, I can't speak, directly in terms of what they're going to be promoting or suggesting.
But if they did.
Yeah, I don't think school vouchers is the answer, but yeah,
Okay.
that's just my opinion, so. Okay, anybody else have any questions? Yes, sir.
I'm having a little trouble reading the numbers from here, but I pulled a copy of the budget that you had posted on your website.
Yes, sir.
Financial area website as of this afternoon, and these look slightly different.
There is a very slight difference. The total's the same. There's a very slight difference in function 11. We had posted what was the budget at that time when we had to post it several weeks ago. And when we went back and decided to add $25 per employee for an increase in the district health insurance contribution, that money had to be redistributed into all these functions. So it's a good question.
I was a little surprised that the budget wasn't referred to in the agenda packet that was posted
Sure.
3 days ago, as it has been in the past. Had to search elsewhere. Somebody else clued me in that that was the place to find it. So I assumed that that was the most up-to-date. But at any rate, I did a little back-of-the-envelope computing and, or calculating, not really computing. And it appeared that the largest area there, the instruction account, I guess is the proper term, represents a smaller proportion of the entire budget than it did last year. I computed it at 59%, and it was 61.5%.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think as time goes on, and as we're not receiving any additional dollars per student from the state of Texas, the cost of doing business goes up. That in large part is not instructional related. I mean, if you look at this right here, we're spending extra dollars in campus security. We're spending extra dollars for water. We're spending extra dollars for facility operational costs. So you're absolutely correct, because those other functions have increased, and as those increase, then it just makes sense that there'll be a small adjustment in the instructional
True, but
percentage.
you're also spending extra dollars for curriculum and staff development, close to $400,000, $300,000. Extra money for instructional leadership, well over $400,000, more than last year I'm talking about.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
And more for school leadership, a little over $300,000. Those three categories alone account for almost $1 million more expenditures over last year. And yet, the instruction budget, which I assume is what teachers are paid out of primarily, benefits and such, is almost level. It seems to me there's kind of a disparity here. There's been a lot of discussion, and I presume, though I haven't heard your names mentioned, that a lot of you board members look at next door. And the past few weeks, next door has just been a blizzard of comments, opinion, misinformation, information that's been ignored, no response from the school administration when there was misinformation posted, which bothers me a lot, that you want better communication, and yet people get away with saying things that are absolutely irresponsible with no public response from the school board or administration. But one of the things was, yes, we want more money for teachers. I think probably that is the strongest message that I detected. And I was out of state for 5 weeks. I haven't been talking to local people directly. I've been inferring just from what I could pick up on the internet and other sources. And yet, all this extra money is going to support activities, but not to the fund that pays the teachers. I don't understand how actually you can even do a 1.5% COLA, which is inadequate. It's less than the cost of living actually goes up.
We couldn't agree more. That's why the TRE was important,
Yeah,
for sure. Yes, sir.
And also, I assumed in lieu of having more detail than just what's published, that benefits come out of that account as well. Do they?
Benefits are generally speaking spread over all of the functional areas. Yes, sir.
Okay, so for faculty, the benefits would come out of the instruction area.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
So
like I said, all of the things that I touched on in the previous slide are embedded within all of these functions. So
At least 2 people posted on Nextdoor, one who claimed she was a teacher and one who claimed she was the child of a teacher, that the teachers were told they were going to be paying $12,000 more in health insurance costs next year. Is that true?
no, sir. And I have a slide that I'll get to in just a moment that kind of breaks down the insurance
Okay,
information.
I wish that somebody had answered that. I didn't believe it when I saw it, but it was repeated. That's the kind of thing that gets repeated down the line if you don't have better communication. Just as the former board member, I think he's still sitting behind me, said a little while ago. You can't just let misinformation go out, circulate in the community, and...
Well, and some of the information certainly doesn't come from the school district.
Sir, I think you're right, but there's a fine line between do you answer every piece of misinformation? I mean, the folks who work here work extremely hard, and they have a full-time job, and they have plenty to do every single day, rather than answer every single crazy thing that is said every single day by crazy people every single day. And these folks have to, they've got to teach kids, they've got to run districts, they've got to do all kinds of things. They can't just spend their time answering crazy questions.
A referendum because ignorant people were spreading new stuff like that.
I agree with you, we lost the referendum because there wasn't enough information. We absolutely agree on that, but I disagree that they were ignorant. I think they were intentional in what they did. I think they intentionally sabotaged our district and they knew they were doing it. I think they intentionally spread misinformation, and I think they're still doing it.
Well, where did a teacher get the idea that she was going to have to pay $12,000 more in health?
Yeah, I can't speak, I don't know that we can speak to that. I'm not sure.
Your presentation.
There's a lot of information out there,
I think this is a good opportunity for Dr. Morris to finish up here.
Yeah, let me carry on and then we'll ask some
Because I think he can clear the air on a lot of things that he's going through.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will your presentation be part of the record that gets
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
posted? Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
good.
So this slide here is something that I've shared with the board for several years in a row. It is intended to show a comparison of teacher pay with our competitors at the different 5-year increments. As you look down the list, this goes back to 2012-13. I have Montgomery highlighted because I didn't get all of the information from them, didn't receive all of it, but we are proposing 1.5%. Conroe is proposing or has adopted 2.5% raise. Montgomery 2% and Tomball 2%, and they're changing their fiscal years to have a balanced budget. One of the reasons why I built this several years ago, you'll look at a comparison in each one of these different sections that shows Magnolia ISD deviation from the group average, okay? And in particular, you'll note the green, which is the average deviation each and every year. So as you go back to 2012-13, you can see that the average deviation that we had, Magnolia ISD had with the group average was $2,200 at each level of pay, 0 through 20. And you can see throughout the years with what we've been able to do, all with balanced budgets, that we've made some substantial strides. In 17-18, we had reduced the average disparity down to $1,200, okay? In 18-19, unfortunately, due in large part to the fact that the TRE did not pass, so we did not have the extra dollars to do the things that we wanted to do. We're going backwards just a little bit, not quickly, but you'll see the average disparity at $1,471. Okay. Any questions on this?
I talked to the senator, the tax man, Paul Betancourt, and he said that he has been talking to the legislature so that they will go ahead, and he's already submitted a law that they're going to submit in January, that they're going to make it against the law in the state of Texas to go ahead and go through with these summertime tax rate hike elections, and that they're going to have to be either in the spring or in the fall. So this won't, it appeared to be sneaky to the taxpayers to have it during the middle of the
Okay,
summertime.
do you have a question for me? Do you have a question?
Have you heard about that?
Yeah, no, I have not heard about that. We're going to move forward. Let's get to the end, and then I'll ask if anyone has any questions. So here's a comparison of health insurance. And this is on the right-hand part of the screen, you'll see a comparison of what the surrounding districts in Region 6, and I added Tomball to the list, of what we pay for employer-sponsored health insurance each month. Conroe is a little bit different, so don't get too caught up in their $446 because they're self-funded. The disparity between what they provide and the lower premium is about the same as us, okay? But in looking at this, we have not adjusted the employer portion for, I believe it's been 5 years. And so you look at the group average of $280, and obviously this is something that we wanted to look at as an administration and school board. You'll see the different plans in the middle of the screen. Active Care 1 HD, you see that we have 679 employees of our roughly 1,100 who participate in health insurance, participate in that plan. Under the yellow highlight on the far right column, you'll see the average increase of $37 per month. And then on Active Care 2, we have 161 employees, average increase of $53. And then Active Care 2, average increase of $130 per month for premium purposes. And so anyhow, so in looking at this, and then also taking into consideration, of course, the amount of money that we had available after meeting the minimal 1.5% COLA adjustment, we're certainly recommending, again, a $25 increase for health insurance purposes. It'd be nice to get to 50 or more, but that's what we're recommending at this point.
So that $25 will, even though health insurance premiums are not within our control, obviously,
Absolutely.
that $25 will put us on par with Tomball, right?
Yes, sir, it does. And I know that's something we talk about in budget workshops each and every year, that we don't want to chase the insurance, but I think it's been several years. When we last increased ours to $275, we were at $225, and at that point in time, Tomball was at $225 as well, so they've gotten ahead of us a little bit. So it's fairly small, but it does mean a lot to a lot of employees. Now we'll switch gears and talk briefly about our debt service fund. Obviously, we're anticipating a balanced budget in this area to meet the needs in terms of paying for the principal and interest required from previously approved bonds from our voters. Current payment is roughly the same as last year, almost $19.4 million, and obviously we can meet that mark with our current tax rate. So another balanced budget. Food service fund, something I failed to mention on the general fund slide. The average school district across the state does have to supplement the food service fund. Most districts do not have a balanced budget, and that's something that we're proud of here, thanks to our efforts for many years. Give me just 1 second. So again, we're promoting or proposing a balanced budget in our food service fund. This will include, obviously, just as we are with all of our employees, that 1.5% raise and increase in health insurance contribution and so forth and so on. We've increased the expenditure side of the budget to take on the additional cost to feed more students, as we're anticipating some growth. But the good news is we're not increasing the rates for lunch and breakfast and so forth. And just quickly, that kind of wraps up our funds. And again, guys, I'll be glad to try to answer any more questions in just a moment. Quickly, because we've already adopted the tax rate. We did that in May. We adopted the 2 different rates contingent upon whether the TRE passed or didn't pass. So tonight, we're just, for participation purposes, reminding that we're having the same tax rate for 18-19, which will be the fourth year in a row at the $37.95 mark. You'll see, and this graph kind of displays it very well. We capped out in 05-06, and this is what we talked about a little bit earlier about the state funding. We were at $1.46 on the M&O and instead of the $1.50 cap. But the total tax rate in 05-06 was $1.79, and this may take some folks by surprise, but we are down to $1.3795, and again, this will be the fourth year in a row of that rate. Any questions on this slide? No? Okay. And of course, that total tax rate would have been the same if the TRE would have passed. So.
And the lowest in any recent memory.
Yes, sir. Correct.
Can you speak to the interest? Any anecdotes you want to share about all the money you and your team have been saving on the INS side from 2 slides back over the last few years?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yeah, we've certainly have paid down some debt early. We've had several very large refundings that we've taken advantage of, and as part of our fiscal prudence and tax base growth, I think the board is aware of this, but we actually had a bond rating upgrade 2 weeks ago. So
2 days after this election.
It was 2 days after the
Had a
election.
bond rating upgrade.
And so that's something that will save taxpayers millions of dollars in the future as we issue new bonds. Okay, any questions?
Could you back up to the bond fund slide, please? I looked at the last few years' budget for this particular fund in view of the referendum brouhaha this summer. I just looked at it recently. And I noticed that every year, somehow miraculously, your anticipated revenue comes out to be precisely what the bond service costs will be, principal and interest. Now, it would appear to me, and you know how it's handled in your office.
Sure.
I'm not in your office.
Absolutely.
That what you do is figure out how much it's going to cost to service the bonds, and then adjust the anticipated revenue to match that figure.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we propose balanced budgets, and this, on the expenditure side, reflects the current year requirement for principal and interest purposes.
Okay, that raises 2 questions in my mind. First of all, again, some of the speculation on next door this summer, some people who were for the referendum claimed, and you can tell me whether it's true or not, sure, probably, that if we collect too much in the debt service fund, that can also be taken away by the state under the Robin Hood provisions.
No,
that
sir.
is not true.
That is incorrect,
Okay.
100%.
Okay. So that argument really was just wrong. It's just wrong.
Correct, yes.
And as I say, it was made by proponents, people who thought that we should vote for the referendum to avoid that money being taken away, which...
Money that's in the debt service fund, whether it be current year or in some situations in excess of current year requirements, can only be used to pay for debt.
Well, that
And
makes
we've
sense
used it to
me.
pay down debt early and to pay off debt early.
I didn't challenge
Yes,
it because
Sure.
I'm not an insider, I don't
Absolutely.
know. But
Good
someone
question.
should have challenged it. That's my point. It was misinformation. And I can't believe that nobody in the board or administration was aware of some of that going on. But
I've never been on Nextdoor, just to be honest, so
getting back to this particular, is there
Just
some
saying.
reason?
yeah. I mean, I don't really have
And I
to say.
think your point is well taken for us to do a better job of educating people so they don't believe everything they read.
Excellent point. Yes, sir. Excellent point. Good question.
Or here.
Right.
A lot of it, I'm sure.
Because it could be next door, it could be social media, it could be a million things, right?
Yeah, I'm not plugged into social media, and I'm not well known in my neighborhood, so I don't know what's going around by word of mouth or social media. It's just not my anyway, back to this particular slide. Is there some reason that you can't reasonably accurately forecast your real revenue for the following year and have it show that surplus is going to increase if indeed that's the case?
That is certainly a budgeting and presentation approach that we could do. It's not what we've traditionally done, but it certainly is an approach that could be used.
Anybody who's foolish enough like me to actually look at these figures, to see that now
I'm glad someone's
The
looking at it.
surplus this year is $2 million higher than it was a year ago, roughly. And it's been up
Yes, sir.
every year since 1913, which is as far back as I went. So clearly, that slide isn't accurate. You know that it is likely
Well-
that the revenue will be higher.
Well, there's different approaches. I don't, yeah, I mean,
You can get pretty good information from the county, and also the school district buys demographic information for purposes of trying to figure out how many students you're
Sure.
gonna have to take care of. You could use some of that information as well. It must include things like new
Thank you.
housing
Yes, sir.
starts and such, to give a more accurate reflection of the revenues in this fund. You, I think, probably use the best figures possible for the operating budget,
absolutely.
but not in debt service fund, so that's a bit misleading.
Well, I mean, if you notice, the general fund is balanced as well to
Yeah,
the penny,
yeah.
so, okay.
That's a lot softer figures.
Absolutely.
You know today, unless new bonds are issued to beat some
Sure.
expenses in the next year, exactly what it's going to cost to service your debt for the next year.
Yes, sir. Any other questions? Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to make the point that in our small case, the district did decide to spend money that it didn't need to, because we have private duty nursing
Okay.
for our daughter Avery that Deb spoke about earlier. I don't know what the cost is, but just rough math says it's gotta be $30,000 to $40,000.
Okay.
So
Thank you. Thank you for that input.
probably didn't need to be spent.
Good to know. Thank you. Yes.
Is the surplus on the interest on the debt, like he was talking about, is it ever refunded back to the taxpayers if you have a surplus at the end of the year?
The money cannot be refunded back. It can only be used to pay off debt earlier, which saves the taxpayers money in the long run.
Is that what you do?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, sir, it's 100% what we do. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further questions, then we're going to conclude this hearing. The time is 8:20. Thank you, Dr. Morris.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, we've got adoption of the budget. You're next for that.
Thank you, sir. So now, after the public hearing fund, I am recommending approval of the three different budgets that I just presented for 18-19 for a total amount of just over $133,200,000, of which general operating fund of just over $108 million. All of these are balanced budgets. Debt service fund of $13.3 million, and food service fund of almost $5.9 million.
Any questions up here? Okay, we need a motion for this one. Travis motion, seconded by Joe. All in favor? That motion passes. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. So next, we have consideration to approve the agreement for purchase of attendance credits. Just quickly, this is the third year in a row, so I won't go into extreme detail, but the state has forewarned us, if you will, that we have exceeded the first wealth equalization level, again, for the third year in a row. We are still not at a point where we're having to pay back recapture, which is the most important thing. However, we're kind of on the Chapter 41 watch list, so to speak, and so we have to go through the different motions to approve the recapture approach were we to be subject to recapture, okay? And we have recommended each of the last 2 years, based on the ease of accounting purposes, the purchase of attendance credits from the state, or option number 3, with the Chapter 42 netting, which means if we were subject to recapture, that the state would simply decrease our FSP funding by the amount that we would need to average our wealth. If that makes sense. So, again.
It makes no sense. That's a broken system.
So the most important thing here is, again, that at this point, we are semi-wealthy, I guess you would say, in terms of exceeding the first wealth equalization level, but we are not subject to having to pay recapture. But we have to approve the approach were we to be subject to recapture.
Because we're getting very close.
Yes, sir, and this is the third year in a row, so.
Isn't it
No,
lovely
no.
how that yardstick moves? At 500 less per child, we are wealthy enough that they'd like to take our money and give it somewhere else.
Prepare us for that. Yes, ma'am.
We're smiling.
All right, any other questions? Okay, we need a motion that we approve the agreement for the purchase of attendance credits, netting Chapter 42 funding. Motion by Chuck, seconded by Christie. All in favor? That motion passes. Carry on, Dr.
All right,
Barnes.
thank you, sir. This one is a little bit, takes a little bit of explaining as well, believe it or not. Has to do with the land behind us. If board, just quickly, this area right here, going back to Alpha and where the city park is, the district used to own all 72 of those acres. In and around the 2008 year, we sold some of the land, obviously, to the county, and then we conveyed a small portion of the land to the city for a specific purpose of ingress and egress for park purposes. But in doing so, we still held on to some of the rights of the land, okay? So in short, the state is preparing for a road widening project of 1488, okay? And so some of this piece of land that was conveyed to the city reaches out to 1488, a very small portion. It's, I think it's 728 square feet, okay? So as part of the resolution that we had in the deed conveyance, the city, in order for them to convey any portion of the land, it would require our board approval, okay? So essentially, we're selling the very small piece of land to the state of Texas through the city for $1,000. Got all that? So anyhow, we are approving a resolution tonight to allow the city to move forward and then the state to move forward with our land that's somewhat ours.
This is 1488 widening.
Yeah, 1488 wide.
Few square feet.
Yeah, 700 something square feet to be able to widen 1480. And I think the deed had a covenant on it. They had to approve, we have to approve whatever they do with that land conveyance.
We're all for road widening.
We want 1488 wide.
Yes.
Yes, we do. Can you sell it for
Please
more
approve
money?
it.
Can you sell it for more than 1,000 to the city? I mean,
I don't think this one is for public comment. Thank you, sir.
It's about $500,000.
Okay, has anybody got any other questions up here? All right. I move that we approve a resolution authorizing the conveyance of approximately .0167 acres of land out of a 29.979 acre tract of land previously conveyed by Magnolia Isd to the city of Magnolia, from the city of Magnolia to the state of Texas for the purposes related to a state transportation project. Motion by Christie, seconded by Joe. All in favor? That motion passes.
That was really
We're that much
long.
closer to widening in 1488. Step by step.
700 feet, square feet. Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, Dr. Garza, Mr. Bell, you're up next.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Blizzard, Dr. Stevens, members of the board. It's our pleasure to visit with you tonight regarding modifications to the Magnolia ISD locally developed appraisal instrument. If you'll see there in your packet on the background, you might remember that Magnolia ISD currently utilizes a locally developed appraisal instrument. And this system was developed through the DEIC committee and then approved by the Board of Trustees in 2016. For the 18-19 school year, however, all teacher appraisal systems in Texas are required to include a measure of student growth in that appraisal instrument, in their appraisal instrument. This required student growth component necessitates a modification to our existing teacher appraisal system. And Dr. Garza is going to walk you through what those modifications will look like in our locally developed appraisal system.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. All right, members of the board, Mr. Blizzard, Dr. Stevens. We're proposing a slight change to the appraisal system. So basically, like you said, TEC code says that we have to have a growth measure in our appraisal system. However, shockingly, the language in the code is very broad, and that there's not a lot of specificity in how this should look or how it's measured. So we are a locally developed appraisal system district, which means we can pick our own system and determine its weight and value, which is good. So we looked at several options. There's some stuff out there that the state recommends, or we can have our own. Several options. We look at student learning objectives as our vehicle for measuring student growth. And so what is a student learning objective? So basically, as opposed to looking at state star scores as a measure as a value measure, we're looking at an objective within each course. So basically what will happen is that each teacher will have the opportunity to measure student growth on an objective that transcends their course. So for example, I'll read you a second grade SLO. All students will solve multi-step word problems involving addition and subtraction within 1,000. So that teacher throughout the year would measure students, their initial assessment and then their growth on that objective throughout the school year. So we believe that this is the most comprehensive and uniform way to do this process. There's, like I said, there's lots of avenues out there, that things we could do, but this is probably the most simplistic in nature that we've done. Excuse me.
Okay.
Any questions?
So those things would be decided at the campus level between the teacher or teams of teachers and their administration, and they'll set those and work on those throughout the year. So it's just not something random, but they will decide.
Oh, yeah,
But we need to determine that locally and at the campus and grade level.
Our system is very strategic how we've done this. They are provided for the teachers. It's very, very simplistic in nature. But there are certain teachers like band directors, choir directors, and so forth that we can't develop those, and they will actually develop their own.
Questions, comments? Okay, we need a motion that we approve the modification of Magnolia ISD locally developed appraisal instrument. Motion by Travis, seconded by Joe. All in favor? That motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, this one's for review only, no action by us. Dr. Bullock?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Blizzard, Dr. Stevens, members of the board. This is Policy Update 111, and it deals with 7 local policies. This is what I expect will be the final cleanup out of the 85th legislative session, which ended in May of 2017, and here we are with a few more changes. So welcome to the world of policy. Sometimes when I stand up here and I look through the policy changes, there are it's hard to even draw enough of substance to talk to you about. Honestly, these are cosmetic changes. We're deleting a policy because it's already covered under legal, so there's no reason to have it in a local policy. The highlights that I can pull out of this are as follows for you. We are updating language on board member training that must be reported prior to the last meeting before the uniform election date, just as a requirement to give a training update during that board meeting. There is also language that is being clarified saying that a board must pass a resolution in order to pay staff when they work in times of a natural disaster such as Hurricane Harvey. That's a practice we already have, but the language clarifies it in policy now. And the third thing that it separates out a section in policy about employee rights, saying that we can search employees when they are under the suspicion of being under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Not something that we have to deal with on a regular basis, but the policy already called for us being able to search employees when they were accused of inappropriate behavior, which would also include being under the influence of drugs and alcohol. But now that's its own separate section. Really doesn't change our practice at all, but here's your local policy update. Tonight is for review. Please, as I know you guys have already done, look over your packet, and if you have questions, please let me know before next month when this will come back as an action item. Questions this evening? Yes, sir.
I noticed the drug-free awareness program was scratched.
Yes, sir. And that is a deletion. It's policy DI local, which specifically goes into information about the, let me make sure I get the language just right on this. Language from the drug-free awareness program under federal guidelines, and that's being removed because it's already covered in policy DH legal. So it's just a repetition that's being deleted. Doesn't change our practice. Good question.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And this one is for review only, no action on our part. Mr. Stewart, you're on deck next.
Thank you very much, Mr. Blizzard. We bring to you, last month we brought the Code of Conduct for approval. This month is the review of the handbook. Again, this is a non-legislative year, so we go through this, and outside of clarifying verbiage, making sure our words are tighter and more precise, we just make a few changes, basically representing either a personnel change or some sort of commissioner rule change or something just slight like that. But for all intents and purposes, the big three areas that mean a lot to a lot of folks in terms of phone calls: dress code, matters of attendance, and how we handle electronic devices, those have not changed at all. So for all intents and purposes, it is the same handbook. Like I said, we just try to improve the verbiage and just make sure we're clear on items that have come up throughout the previous year from parents and questions and concerns. So we will proceed and have this posted shortly out on our website so that all parents can see it and see the updated information, and we will go from there. But it's really not much. We anticipate a lot of changes next summer.
All right, thank you, sir. I guess we're good. Okay, Westwood Magnolia Parkway Improvement District, as you've seen in your notes. Board of Directors recently passed a resolution increasing the size of their Board of Directors from 5 to 7 directors. MISD has been designated as one of the entities who will be appointing one of the new director positions. So we would like to recommend that we appoint James Pat Robertson to the Westwood Magnolia Parkway Improvement District Board of Directors. So, does anybody have any questions or comments about that? Okay, so if nobody has any questions or comments up here, then we need a motion that the board approve, appoint Mr. James Pat Robertson to serve on the Board of Directors of the Westwood Magnolia Parkway Improvement District as recommended. Motion by Chuck, seconded by Sonia. All in favor?
Tom, are you still part of that board? And, I mean, I just have to brag on the Westwood Parkway Improvement District, the things that they do a lot of great things for our community. They've done a lot of great things for us as a school district. And two projects, one that may be bringing a little pain right now is a road widening and project that's happening right in front of Ellisor Elementary School, and that's going to be a much better commute for all of our parents and all the constituents that drive up and down on Egypt there lane there, and we'll get that done shortly. But they're also undergoing a drainage project in the back of Ellisor that's going to benefit that entire area, but most notably us, and it saved us some hundreds of thousands of dollars that we were going to have to do just to protect our detention pond from the erosion and stuff that happened. But this is something that benefits everybody, and we even regained part of our playground. We added square footage in our playground area because of some of the work they're doing there. And they got that light up at Tamina, and we appreciate it.
Approach Austin about getting things as well as here. Rob called in this afternoon to get that stuff synchronized for you.
Well, just thank y'all so much for the work you do for our entire Magnolia area, but especially for Magnolia ISD.
We'll send you more money.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
That's all we do is send that sales tax to you, not problem.
Thank you, Tom.
Take care.
Thank you. Okay, Montgomery Central Appraisal District Board of Directors received notification from Robert Bob Casey that he would be unable to serve on the Board of Directors. When a vacancy occurs on the Board of Directors, each taxing unit is entitled to vote by resolution and nominate a candidate to fill the vacancy. The nominee chosen by the Montgomery Central Appraisal District Board to fill the vacancy will finish out the regular term of office that expires on December 31st, 2019. It is our recommendation that we appoint Steve Cruz to the Montgomery Central Appraisal District Board of Directors. So, does anybody have any questions about that? Comments about that? It's a familiar name. Okay, we need a motion that we nominate Steve Cruz as a candidate to fill the vacancy on the 2018-19 Montgomery Central Appraisal District Board of Directors. Motion by Travis, seconded by Joe. All in favor? That motion passes.
I think he's uniquely qualified.
Absolutely.
He served as a trustee on the school board, but in his work as a as a surveyor and as an attorney, I mean, I think he's gonna bring a lot of acumen to that position if we could get him elected in there. Be good for our county to have him part of that board.
He'll go for another year and a half.
Yes, sir. So, we'll see what happens.
Good stuff. Well, all right, sir, we got anything else?
Let me see. Appears not. Executive session.
All right. So at this time, the board will now recess to move into closed executive session for the purposes permitted by pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074, personnel discussion recommendations, and pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.072, discussion of purchase, sale, exchange, or value of real property. Thank you. All right, I need a motion that we adjourn this meeting. Motion by Sonia, seconded by Chuck. All in favor? Meeting adjourned.